Live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125 across all our social media handles. Hello, good morning and welcome to NewsX. Coming up within the next 60 minutes, Joy News checks reveal 318 mining licenses were issued by the former President Akufo-Addo's administration in January 2025 before leaving office. We have details of that, plus how the Environmental Protection Authority plans to deal with that and sanitize the mining sector. We'll be having a conversation with them this morning on NewsX. Also coming up, Movement for Change asks government to completely overhaul budgets to focus more on agribusiness, trade and industry. Or hear some of their demands here on NewsX, plus business updates as well. My name is Faustina Saf. It's a good time to take a seat and please be my guest. Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Now we start with our checks at the Minerals Commission because it has revealed that 318 mining-related licenses were to commence in the final week of the former President Akufo-Addo's administration, more than tripling the 102 initially reported, while President Mahama's administration has issued 10 licenses so far, making it a total of 328 licenses issued this year. Let's break down the figure. Thankfully, I have Isaac Kofi in the studio. He is lead researcher and a key member of our data analyst team here at Joy News. Thank you so much, Kofi. Let's get an understanding. These fresh figures, what did they say actually? Well,
so firstly, if there's any website that the Joy News Research Desk possibly sleeps there, is the Minerals Commission's website, because they have a very good repository that helps us to track the mining licenses, when they started, when they were actually approved and all of that. So this is a repository that does not give you the data in a report, but rather you need to do some sort of data pivoting and cleaning, and the team has been doing that. So in January, this year, around 24th of January, what we saw was that in the final week of the former president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, there were some 102 licenses, mining-related licenses, that were supposed to start within that period. His last 6 days in office, 102, and we reported this figure. Just yesterday, we were still tracking the system, keeping tabs on that, and we realized that this number has gone up by more than 100%, from 102 mining-related licenses actually starting. Now we are talking about 318 mining-related licenses.
Between 1st and 6th of January?
Absolutely. I mean, that means that you have 318 licenses or mining lines that were actually greened to start. They were given a green light to start whatever, whether it is prospecting or whatever, whether it is small scale or large scale mining. 318. If you do the math, that has more than tripled if you compare it to the data we saw on the 24th of January. So this was staggering. Looking at the fact that, in fact, if you look at the total number of mining licenses that have actually been issued since 1995, about 95% of them, or I should say more than 95% of them, were supposed to start under the 8-year period of the former president.
And so, this is worrying because I recall during the last few months of that administration, we were heavy on illegal mining and its impact on the environment. This is a president that put his presidency on the line. And so what happened really? Was it the case that within the 8 years of his tenure, all of a sudden, just 6 days to his exiting office, then this individuals, 318 of them, get licenses?
I mean, yeah, these are actually companies, but I mean, firstly, the most important thing is that it is not actually wrong issuing licenses or actually giving mining companies or giving out licenses, but the problem is that
the number is staggering.
Exactly, and you also have a number of the licensed companies. Actually, if you look at most of the report, going into the red zones where some of them are now mining in the forest. Apamprama forest is number one, and the Erastos has done a number of stories on that. So that's the big challenge, that now even the licensed mining companies are going into areas that hitherto they weren't even allowed. Water bodies, and you're talking about forest, zones and reserves. Now we are also learning that this has great repercussions on the operations of the Ghana Water Company. So yesterday, we were trying to understand or trying to link this data that we are seeing to what is happening in the Ghana Water Company. And we realized that since 2019, the company has been making losses, cumulative losses of close to about 10 billion Ghana cedis. The losses for the Ghana Water Company from 2019 to 2023 is now a staggering 10 billion Ghana cedis. Now, they actually put in that report, if you look at the SIGA report, that one of the reasons why their cost of operation or the operational cost has gone high is how expensive it's become to treat water for households, and how expensive it has actually become to even buy some of the chemicals they use in the treatment of the water. So, I mean, this is a big problem on the hands of the nation, where if you look at over some 2,114 mining-related lines that have actually been issued since 1995, you have more than 95% of that coming or starting or commencing during the last 8-year period of the former president. And the big news is that you have 318 of them commencing in his last 6 days. It could be that the application actually went on a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, but we still are looking for answers, where we had to wait until the last 6 days that 318 of them were given the green light to start Operation Foster.
And this is worrying. This is something that we're picking up here at Joy News, and we're going to explore it further as we look at the implications for the environment. Well, joining me now is Professor Nana Ama Brown-Kluje. She is Chief Executive Officer, the Environmental Protection Agency. Thank you so much for your time. You just took office. What briefing did you receive?
Thank you. Good morning for having me. Good morning.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. However, there seems to be some interruption in your voice in the background. Clear now. Perfect now.
Yeah. Okay, let me put myself on while I'm just entering the meeting. Let me make it quick.
Okay.
So I immediately got in touch with me. I checked with my mining department, and for the permits that we have issued, EPA has issued in the whole of 2024. So the last time a permit was issued by EPA was in May 2024, 23rd May. Okay, that was in Central Region. We have October, just going through the data.
Okay.
So the last time EPA issued a permit was in October 2024. Yeah, that is the last time EPA issued a permit. And these are all small scale and medium scale mining. We have not given a large scale mining. These are small scale and medium scale miners. So the licenses EPA has given. So looking at the news, the data coming up now, it means also that if those in operation now are working, those permits or the licenses we have now are working, it means they are working without EPA's permit, which means that we have to go after them. What EPA seeks to do in a very soon is to review all licenses. Is to review all licenses, large scale, medium scale, small scale mining licenses, and review, and those ones we have to revoke, we will revoke. Those ones we have to reassess their environmental impact assessment, we will have to do. So we are committed in doing this, as you rightly followed in the course of time. We see the alluvial mining as an emergency, especially in our water bodies, and we taking steps to resolve or rehabilitate our water, reclaim our land. However, this is another step the president himself has made an announcement to the licenses that we need to revoke those licenses that are not in doing well. Let's say they are not practicing properly and they are not for compliance with the environment. But per this particular news on this topic, there are 318 licenses that were issued between January 1 and January 6. EPA has not given permits in January, mainly also because the EPA has become an authority from an agency. So we are now working on our documentations, and so we have not issued any permits in the month of January.
So by way of education, I know that the final decision lies with the Minerals Commission with some of these mining leases. I'm wondering what information you've been receiving from the Minerals Commission that you can now work with, since you're now an authority and you have such powers to deal with issues like this.
Yes, thank you very much. So Minerals Commission gives the lease, Forestry Commission gives the entry permits. It's EPA that also gives the permit for operations. So before we give permits, we have to ensure that all activities are compliant to the environment. So without EPA permits, no miner is supposed to start work. EPA must permit you to mine. Otherwise, you can have your licenses from Minerals Commission, you can have your entry licenses from Forestry Commission, but you cannot mine if EPA has not permitted you to mine.
And you say since October, EPA hasn't given out any official authorization for any of these companies to begin work. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the data before me shows that EPA, the last mining licenses issued were all in October 2024. The whole of 2025, there's not been any license issued.
What timelines are you giving us? You have told us that you would be sitting down to look at some of these licenses that have been issued out. What timelines do you have that you'll be working with?
Yeah, so as this issue has already come up, we were studying the data to understand the different types of permits and those with issues that we need to deal with so we can revoke them. But as this has become already a news item, we're immediately going to issue a press statement in calling licenses to review them, and those we have to revoke, we go ahead to revoke them.
Thank you so much for your time here on Newsdesk. We've just been hearing from the EPA serving notice that some of these licenses, they will be reviewing the process and ensuring that those who do not qualify, they would revoke their licenses. You're still watching Joy Newsdesk. Let's do other stories now. Now, there are calls for a targeted approach to the implementation of the free senior high school policy, and this featured prominently among more than 1,000 reviews submitted to the National Education Forum Committee. While speaking at the launch of the Educational Consultative Forum in Ho, the President, John Dramani Mahama, assured that the forum's recommendation will not be ignored. He urged participants to approach the attacks with courage and objectivity. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agwagwa reports.
Parents, teachers, members of civil society organizations, all the relevant stakeholders are gathered here today at the Volta Serene Hotel, where the launch will be taking place, and then further engagement, will happen.
The Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference and the Christian Council of Ghana raised concerns about being excluded from the list of invitees for the forum. President Mahama apologized, stating that the invitation had been delayed.
But first, let me express my sincerest Apologies on behalf of the Planning Committee of the Forum to our stakeholders of the faith-based organizations for the unpardonable omission committed in your delayed invitation to this forum. I am aware that the omission was very speedily remedied, but you still deserve an unqualified apology for this oversight. And since you are the purveyors of God's mercy on earth, I'm sure that you are forgiving us. Thank you very much. And we know you are important stakeholders because you own some of the schools. And so this educational forum is important to see how we carry everybody together.
A common theme of the conference was the call for a targeted approach in implementing social interventions in the education sector, especially the free senior high school policy. Members of the National Education Reform Committee, Kofi Asare and Dr. Samuel Ewuku, noted that there were suggestions in that regard.
And obviously one of the issues that have been raised about relating to cost efficiency and sustainable financing of free senior high school. People are recommending that the policy must be targeted so that the poorest of the poor will be given more support, including shopping for prospectus items, so that their inability to shop their prospectus shouldn't deprive their children of education. We know that significant numbers are unable to enroll because they are unable to raise money to pay for their prospectus.
In a keynote address on the topic increasing access to quality education for marginalized groups, Professor Emmanuel Champon urged the government to focus on supporting the needy in implementing the free senior high school policy.
I hope that we critically examine all sectors of our education system so that it will allow us to understand clearly where we can improve access to disadvantaged groups. We should be guided by the evidence and not simply by the ideology. And I'm pleased that this forum is taking evidence very seriously. We should, however, not implement free SHS in a way which on the face of it appears to benefit the poor, which in actual fact is a subsidy for the rich.
President Mahama urged participants of the forum to approach their task with objectivity and courage.
As a government, we are fully committed to this process, and the outcomes of this conference, I assure you that your recommendations are not going to gather dust on a shelf. They will not become symbolic recommendations, but they will form the foundation of a comprehensive reform agenda to build an inclusive, equitable, and transformative education system for Ghana and for the benefit of all Ghanaians. And so we'll prioritize the actionable reforms proposed here with clear timelines and measurable outcomes to guide our steps. Regular updates on progress will be shared with the public to build trust and transparency.
Thanks for staying with us here on Newsdesk. Now, the Movement for Change, they are proposing a ton of ideas for government to turn the economy around. Among others, the group wants government to completely overhaul the budget and focus more on agribusiness, trade and industry. Now, they also propose an increment in VAT from the current 15% to 17% and also want government to establish a fixed exchange rate for a period not exceeding 6 months. Well, let me run you through some of the key things they have been saying. They held a press conference yesterday, and some of the key things they want government to do, like I said earlier, they want government to completely overhaul the budget to focus more on agribusiness, trade and industries. They also want government to focus on aligning its priorities to boost the productive sectors of the economy. They also want government to reduce investment in the social services and infrastructural development. We'll be having a conversation on that, why exactly they're pushing for this morning. They also want government to promote high-quality planting materials for cocoa, cashew, shea, butter, coconut oil, palm oil, as well as mango, cassava and rubber, in addition to boosting agricultural productivity in the production of rice, poultry, maize, soya, fisheries, among others. They also want government to invest in garment, textile, pharmaceuticals, automobile companies with specific components like the parts. They also want government to focus on industrial salt, electrical and electronic devices, and the manufacturing of other consumables. So we're having a conversation this morning here on Newsdesk. We're exploring it further with Dr. Nana Yao Educhum. He is spokesperson on Economy for Movement for Change. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsdesk. As part of your key demands, I'm quite interested in one of your demands that you want government to scrap taxes, e-levy, vetting tax, COVID levy. That's already in the NDC's social contract. They pledged to do that within the next 100 days. Why not wait till the days elapse?
Well, first of all, Fosi, thank you very much for the opportunity. And let me also extend our profound gratitude to the media houses that attended our press conference yesterday. Back to the question that you asked. Yes, we should be excited that there is consensus on the issues of removal of certain nuisance taxes. And I'm quite excited that during the campaign, we made it clear, and it was one of our core messages to the Ghanaians. And NDC, as you said, indeed also stated that in their manifesto. However, as the political trajectory will show you, sometimes campaign promises are unable to be fulfilled. So we are of the opinion that since the preparation of the budget is in motion, it is important to re-echo our position on some of these critical or fundamental issues that we raised during the campaign.
But they gave a timeline. Why not wait till the timeline elapses to raise your concerns?
We have to be part of the political discourse of this country. And as you know, we have very important personalities in our movement, and their message should be part of the national discourse. And we feel that the media gives us a platform to share these issues.
I'm just going through some of your key demands as well. You want government to reduce investment in social services and infrastructural development. Why exactly?
Let me take you back to the fundamental point that we made. We are saying that, and I think it's consistent with some of the views that people, experts share, that the structure, the architecture of our national budget does not lend itself to investment in the real sector of the economy. So first of all, we need to prompt this government to look at reviewing the architecture of the budget framework that we use in preparing our budget. That gives too much discretion to the Ministry of Finance and to the extent the Minister for Finance, who decides areas, priorities areas to him. That leads to investment, too much investment allocated to social services. We are not saying social services are not important. Indeed, we are all beneficiaries of public goods, education, health services, and others. But if you look at the current current economic situation that we face as a country, any government who understands the problem will know that, one, there are strategic objectives such as fiscal consolidation, that is making sure that our debt is reduced so that there is very low debt servicing challenges. Two, there's a need for macroeconomic stability, and also you must achieve job creation, significant job creation. If these three strategic objectives drive your budget preparation, then you must understand that the only way to achieve these strategic goals are not to put investment or money in areas which do not yield returns in medium to short to medium term. That is why we are of the view that government must prioritize investment in the real sector of the economy, where jobs will be created, where revenue will be enhanced through corporate income tax, through consumption tax, and other taxes. And the way to do that is to ensure that you prioritize certain specific real sectors of the economy. That's why we talk about agriculture, industry, and tourism. At least if you focus on just these three, as against investment in social service. We are not saying zero investment in social service because it's not even practical. And there are certain demands that are statutory from the social services side. So we are not saying don't do investment at all, but we are saying that we need to prioritize in this time when you need fiscal space to invest in areas which will yield you short-term results, which you can transfer to support the social service.
You're also proposing that government increase VAT from the current 15% to 17%. You expect that government separate the calculation of VAT from the NHIL and GET fund to avoid compounding the calculation of taxes and levies. This is coming at a time where Ghanaians are crying, they're overburdened with tax. You expect government to increase VAT from 15 to 17%?
Yes, we have to, first of all, be realistic about managing the economy. When you are entrusted with power, you must be sincere with the Ghanaian. You understand? And I feel that if I don't know the narrative that will back the budget presentation of this current administration. But those of us who know and who have access to the data, we are clear, we should be clear in our minds that there is no way government can take away e-levy as they promised, as you said, or we are pushing for, because we also promised that, COVID levy, betting tax, and other nuisance taxes, and say that you will not find other means to rake in revenue. You will suffocate. You will suffocate, because as we speak, you know that just 3 budgetary items only takes about 70% or more of our tax revenue. And if that is the case, then how will government invest in other sectors? It's not possible. So we have to be realistic with the situation that we have and be practical with the solution that we profess. And that is why, if you are realistic, you see that if you take away e-levy, you are losing in nominal terms about 1.1 billion cedis. If you take away COVID tax, you take away fumigation and other taxes that we are, say, betting tax, it's likely that overall you lose about 2 billion Ghana cedis. And that creates a hole in the budget. Then it tightens your fiscal space. How do you turn around and get revenue to deal with the priorities that we are talking about? So we are proposing that instead of coming up with other taxes that will also be nuisance, remember that MPP previously removed nuisance taxes and came back with other nuisance taxes. We shouldn't repeat that mistake as political class. And that is why we are proposing that, one, for VAT is a consumption tax. It is easy to collect. It also gives you additional revenue of close to 2 billion. That automatically deals with the gap that you've created by removing these nuisance taxes. And also, we believe that the president should be commended for reducing the number of ministers and ministries. We feel that that in itself will also bring in some fiscal space, because government expenditure, all things being equal, should be reduced just on the point of these items alone. We also think that the fight against corruption can also rake in some space and save government revenue that government is losing. If that is the case, at least you can create some additional revenue to boost investment in the real sector. And another important point is that you need to widen the tax net. And one of the things that I think political class, we talk, and my boss, Honorable Lanche Martin, have this way of putting it, NATO, talk only, no action. We need to correct that. We talk about widening the tax net. How do we widen the tax net?
How do we widen the tax net?
Yes, the important point is that if you target consumption, you use consumption as a point of taxing people. That is where you're able to spread the tax net and everybody will pay in. Else, you only target the companies and you only target the very few people who are contributing to the tax revenue that we currently generate.
I'm just looking at some of the key proposals you're making to government, and I can see that you're also putting a spotlight on forex bureaus and their transactions in the country. You want all their transactions to be suspended with immediate effect. Why?
Yes, it's very practical and realistic, because you bear me out that if you walk through some locations in our city, not only in Accra, other cities, there are places where law enforcement agencies, other Ghanaians know that this is where you have black market people. But you're unable to clamp down on that, because if you do that, they will connect you to a forex bureau that they operate. And we all know that the space is so liberalized that anybody at all can walk in to say, I'm buying a forex, and it will be sold. And now, if you look at the exchange rate, we are unable to stabilize it. We don't need to only stabilize, we need to bring it down. But there is a way to do that. I believe that we need to use 2 approaches. One, we have to outline certain immediate measures. And that's why Movement of Change is of the view that one of the ways to deal with it is to ensure that you streamline the demand and supply of forex. And the way to do that, as is done in many countries across the world, is to make sure that you have banking system or the financial service sector that streamline the demand and supply of forex. If that is the case, you can't have Mr. A going to load thousands of dollars, thousands of Ghana cedis to buy forex. And this gives opportunity, in addition to the earlier point I made, to foreigners, especially those from a neighboring country, to travel in and buy our forex and go back to their country. Because in their countries, you can't do that. And it's important that government use the law enforcement agency and the state power that it has to deal with that. And the way to deal with that is to first suspend the operation of the Forex Bureau for some time. We are of the view that if you do that for a limited period and other medium to long-term economic policy measures, such as promoting export, promoting consumption of locally manufactured goods, empowering the private sector to invest in productive sector, and government itself investing in productive sector. When the positive results start coming out and your forex is stabilized or reduced, then you can, for example, start reintroduction of the operation of the Forex Bureau. Well, you have actually structured it in such a way that they will not also have too much room to just do transactions anyhow. And it's very important. We do talk about it. When you go to South Africa, you can't just buy. When you go to Dubai, you can't just exchange dollar for the local currency and things like that. You have to spend the local currency.
Let's shift our attention to the energy sector. You're proposing a debt equity swap policy. What would that policy entail, really?
Basically, what we are proposing is that now there is the crisis in the energy sector is financial. We all understand, and I mean, all the parties involved in our politics appreciate that the point. The debt overhang is huge. How do we deal with that? If you want government to pay off the IPPs, government cannot. And we need a light to power the 24-hour economy, and we believe that the productive sector must not be denied of any business resources. If that is the case, then we need to have a creative way of handling the issue, the mess in the sector. And we are proposing that government should bring in private sector in a strategic way. It is not about outsourcing part of operation within the value chain of ECG to some friends and associates in the private sector to operate. No, we are saying that you already owe some private sector element in the value chain. Why don't you invite them in a consortium? So you consolidate all government energy assets and you value it, you know the debt, and you have a negotiation. If their debt is equivalent to X percentage of the equity or the value of the energy asset that government has, government can offload that to them, and they become part of the operational management and administrative process of managing our energy assets. And we use that to defray the debt that we owe them. And that will automatically give fiscal space to the Minister for Finance to be able to invest in the priority areas. If we are not creative in the preparation of this budget, and we go the same way that we've been going from 1958 coming, I can bet you, Fosti, we will come back here and be talking about macroeconomic instability, no fiscal space, and schools under trees, and all the basic challenges that we face that we only talk about but we're unable to deal with. That's why we are, if you look at the solutions that we are proposing, they are all practical, realistic, and backed by empirical analysis.
Post the election, have you done an internal assessment to find out what led to your loss in the past election as a political party? I'm asking because you're a key member of the team.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we've had initial, what we call initial introspection. And I believe that you bear with me or agree with me that it was a shock outcome. The results was a shock outcome. So we've definitely have had initial consultation with our members across the country. And I think that we are, the first party that undertook that exercise. But the process is ongoing, so I cannot come up with any conclusion yet because we are part of a team. Our members are being consulted. So the process is ongoing, but I can confirm that, yes, the process was initiated immediately after the declaration of the results.
But your initial talks within the party, what do you think led to the defeat, really?
Well, at this point, I'm unable to come out with the fact is because we've not been able to consolidate the nationwide consultation report that we have. And my seniors are best to speak to that when we are done. And I can assure you that we will share the relevant outcomes with our assessment with the media. And
but I'm glad to see a political party speaking really post the elections. We're looking forward to getting a third force in Ghana's political atmosphere. So kudos for that. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsdesk. Dr. Nanayao Iduchum, he is spokesperson on economy for Movement for Change. He's just been sharing his thoughts on some of the key policy proposals they have for government as this new administration kickstarts operations. Well, you're still watching Newsdesk. We'll be back with business updates shortly. Please stay tuned in.
Welcome back to Business here on News Desk. My name is Winston Taki, and that's our first business story. The Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries has called on government to use the 2025 national budget to initiate policies and incentives that will stimulate private sector growth to reset in the economy. Speaking to Joy Business at the inauguration and swearing in of the new council members of the chamber, President of the Chamber, Stephen Mizen, pledged their commitment to collaborate and support government's 24-hour economy. Here's more.
According to the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries, immediate fiscal measures are essential to relieve the mounting pressure on Ghanaian businesses to ensure their continued growth and sustainability. They contend excessive taxation and levies at the ports, high cost of credit and utility costs, along with unreliable power supply, have significantly impacted on the growth of the private sector. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the inauguration and swearing in of new council members of the chamber, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Stefan Maison Abbas, urged the government to use the 2025 budget to streamline the taxes at the ports.
Duties at the ports has to be streamlined. I've just mentioned, how do you pay interest on money that belongs to you, that you are paying? You pay interest. I mean, that is pathetic. So government has to look at that and streamline the taxes we pay at the port. As a matter of fact, at the port we pay tax on tax. Tax on tax. It's ridiculous. We can't continue doing that. That's one.
He further reaffirmed the Chamber's commitment to support the government's 24-hour economy.
We want to support the government on its 24-hour economy, and that is great. The Chamber of Commerce wants to support it, but we need the businesses to be protected, because if our business environment is not friendly, businesses suffer. Our people are ransacking our businesses. Obviously, that 24-hour economy cannot be supported.
Meanwhile, the 18 newly sworn-in council members were charged to discharge their duties diligently for the growth of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries. For Joy Business, Pius Kujubaka.
Moving on, the managing director of GCB Bank PLC, Farihan Al-Hassan, has paid a courtesy call on the national chief imam, Sheikh Usman Nuhu Shaributu, at his residence in Fadama. The visit aimed to seek prayers and blessings as he assumes his new role as managing director and to extend well wishes ahead of Ramadan.
GCB Bank PLC reaffirmed its commitment to fostering strong community relations by paying a courtesy call on the national chief imam at his residence in Fadama. The visit, led by Managing Director Farihan Al-Hassan, is aimed at seeking prayers and blessing as the bank takes on new leadership. The gesture also coincides with the upcoming Ramadan period, during which GCB Bank PLC has traditionally supported the Muslim community through various donations and initiatives. Speaking in an interview, Farihan Al-Hassan emphasized the importance of unity and financial inclusion, reaffirming the bank's commitment to serving all Ghanaians through its extensive branch network.
We came to our grandfather to seek his blessings as we take up a new responsibility. And again, Ramadan is just 10 days away, to wish him a happy Ramadan. Our bank believes that there's just more to just the banking that we do. We need people like himself who normally pray for us. And it's the reason why we are here. You saw him praying for the bank to be a very successful bank. You saw him praying for the bank for us to achieve our mission and vision. And so it just aligns better with how we want things to be done. You saw him talking about the fact that we needed to unite our minds together. We needed to work as one team. And I think that was, for me, the most profound thing that came out of the visit today. In so many ways, I mean, this is a bank, and obviously financial inclusion is so important. And we're the bank that has over 184 branches everywhere. We ensure everyone, no matter what your stature, your status in the community, you can have a bank account with GCB.
GCB Bank's visit to the National Chief Imam underscores its commitment to fostering strong community ties, promoting financial inclusion, and upholding shared values of unity and development. Rosila Kalistego report, read to you.
The Minister of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Sam George, has been hitting on misinformation and has yet to create more policies to deal with this menace.
Misinformation and disinformation is a critical thing that we're going to be looking at as a ministry, because most of the disinformation and misinformation you see is being carried out on digital platforms. That falls under our purview. We're currently undergoing a review of legislation, and once we are done with a review of legislation, we will be putting before Parliament a robust legislation on misinformation and disinformation that would allow the legal framework for us to clamp down on fake news. We're not going to be clamping down on free speech. Free speech is certainly going to be protected as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution. However, what we are going to do is clamp down on premeditated misinformation and calculated disinformation that is aimed at misinforming the public and driving the wrong sentiments in the public. So yeah, the ministry is working around that. There's going to be a team that's going to start working on that very soon as part of our larger legislative framework overhaul in the ministry. And so we're hopeful that before the middle of the year, we would have got into a place where we're ready to put before Parliament the legal framework. Because you see, it's not about just shutting down the accounts, it's about stopping the creation of the fake news and making sure that when the individuals who have made this their stock in trade, the law catches up with them, they face the full rigors of the law. When there are consequences, it acts as a deterrent for people who are willingly and gleefully engaged in mis and disinformation.
That's all for business. My name is Winston Haki. The news still continues with Faustina Safo standing by.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, the newly coronated chief of Sisala in Wa, Alhaji Brahima Issa Balu, is asking government to prioritize the development of the Sisala enclave, particularly their roads. He noted that as the leading producers of maize in Ghana, their farms and farmers face challenges in transporting their produce to the market centers. Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The Wala residents of Sisala in the Wa municipality of the Upper West region have duly and unanimously chosen the former Sisala Union chairman, Alhaji Brahima Issa Balu, as their chief, following the passing of Koro Alhaji Issa Guarantee in 2023. Koro Alhaji Brahima Issa Balu is a retired High Court registrar, married with 2 wives, 7 children, and 9 grandchildren. The ceremony was greeted with a beautiful and colorful display of rich culture exhibited by the people of Sisala, Wala, and Kajukori to mark the day. Gonjes, Kasines, Gruisis, and Zabarmes, who they share ancestral ties with, and for that matter, their playmates, were part of the tall list of invitees for the ceremony. The Sisales were slapped with a fine of a sheep in line with their tradition and custom before they were granted the opportunity to coronate the new chief. Paramount Chief of Bolu, Kuro Bajo Liman V, who officially installed and adored the new chief, in his address read by Kuro Abdul Rahman Bata III, urged the new chief to embrace his role with humility and wisdom, as the people he leads will look up to him for direction.
He must work tirelessly to promote peace, foster development, and strengthen the bonds between Sisala community and our host people of Wa. To our new chief, I urge you to embrace your role with humility and wisdom. The people you lead will look up to you for dedication, direction, justice, and inspiration.
The newly coronated 75-year-old Sisala chief, in a speech read on his behalf by Suleiman Halim Sichumu, urged the government to prioritize developing the Sisala enclave.
I urge our government representatives to prioritize the development of our area, particularly our roads. As leading producers of maize in Ghana, our farmers face significant challenges in transporting their produce to market centers due to poor road conditions. I call on the government to invest in our roads infrastructure, connecting our farmers to market and unlocking the full potential of our agricultural sector.
Former Roads and Highways Minister and Ghana's ambassador to Egypt, Engineer Amin Suleimani, called on the Sasala people to support the new chief in discharging his responsibilities.
I know our new chief is a very humble man, he's a very honest man. As I said, I've lived with him, I've known him in my majority and in my minority. He doesn't care what you are, who you are. He gives recognition to everybody. And I hope, officially being made our chief, he will play that role very, very significantly. I also call on all our people, the Salas in this community, to do what is required of us to enable our chief discharge his responsibilities.
The colorful celebration ended with the presentation of citations to dedicated Sasala workers in Wa. Reporting for Dwe News, Rafik Salam. Wa.
Well, that's how we wrap up News Text. For more news, please log on to majonline.com. Some top stories there. They have been stealing public funds, and that is coming from Demelovo. Is alleging rampant corruption among public officials. You can click on that story to get more of that, as well as the full interview with my colleague Blessed Suga on PM Express, also embedded in that story. Well, we have to leave now. My name is Faustina Safo. Please have a pleasant day as you enjoy the rest of our programs.